Welcome to this edition of The Soul of Warren County. I'm Mickey Gwynn, and today we have the first part of a two-part interview with someone I'm going to see if you recognize before I introduce him. Listen to some of the honors this young man has earned over his career. Inductee into the Warren County Sports Hall of Fame. Inductee into the Kentucky State University Athletes Hall of Fame. Fourth round draft choice of the Kansas City Royals of Major League Baseball. Former 31-year coach for the Chicago Cubs. World Series champion. And with all due respect, one of the nastiest left-handed pitchers ever to come out of Warren County. Yep, I'm talking about one of McMimble's favorite sons and my good friend, Lester Strode. Lester, welcome to the Soul of Warren County.
It's always a pleasure to be home, and it's a pleasure to be with you here today, Mickey.
We're going to go back now.
Uh-oh.
Babe Ruth baseball years. You pitched for, which team did you pitch for in Babe Ruth?
In Babe Ruth,
yeah.
It was Lively Ferguson.
Lively Ferguson, okay. The reason I asked that is I remember standing in the batter's box.
Hold tight, let's back up. You said Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
I forgot to take my pill, by the way.
Oh, no problem.
No, but it was Fraley's.
Fraley's
was
okay.
my
Fraley's.
Babe Ruth team.
Yeah, okay. That's why I was asking. I was trying to remember the team, but I remember standing in the batter's box. Lester was on the mound, and he threw one of them fastballs, and I remember I swung about the time it hit the catcher's mitt. So you had that natural ability early on as a pitcher. And it has taken you to great lengths in your career and your life, and I know you really appreciate that. But it's interesting. You were telling me after Babe Ruth, you really weren't looking at going out for the high school team.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting period at that time, being a teenager. Of course, we as teenagers got other things in our mind,
right.
and things we want to do. And at that time, you're driving cars, you want your own car. So I've been playing ever since I was a young kid, into the Pony League, they used to call it then. And for some reason or another, after Babe Ruth, I just lost interest there for a moment. And I just wanted to get a job, get a car like all the other young, my young friends, and enjoy life a little bit more than just playing baseball. So again, I took that turn and got away from it for a few years.
Did you notice, and I sort of thought about this looking back, it seemed like a lot of the black athletes played baseball up through Babe Ruth. I mean, I look back at people like, Danny Martin, Robert Biles, Jeff Martin, Terry Reed, those guys played Babe Ruth baseball. But it seems like when it came to high school, a lot of those folks drifted toward basketball and football. They didn't play a lot of high school baseball. And it was interesting that you said that because it seemed like that was a little bit of a trend back then.
Yes, and you named out some great athletes that came through, whether they played baseball, basketball, football, right. And some of the competitive guys were Danny Martin and Chris Biles and Reggie Bonner and those guys. And again, I just think at that period in time that was a sport that was more interesting to them because like in baseball, it can be a little boring if you don't understand the game, right. Or if you're not out there all the time and you don't get to be on the field all the time. So I think that's one of the reasons why it went that direction. But also I think another reason why it went that way during that period in time is that there was so much competition for baseball at that
right.
time, and I just think they felt that they could achieve more in sports by playing basketball and football as opposed to playing baseball. And I think even back then, Mickey, I think they saw where in the long run that if you were thinking professionally at that time, and I don't know if they were or weren't, but they saw that you could make money quickly in those two sports.
Yeah. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit more in the second part when you get to the major leagues and see about, I think there's been a trend there too over the years with the ethnicity of the players that are in the major leagues also. But I think as I remember you telling me, your cousin persuaded you to go
Yes.
out for the team, and unfortunately, I don't know, unfortunately, but you made a team and he got cut.
Well, yeah, I mean that's
we ain't got to call his name, would you?
I won't call no names, but Yeah, I mean, again, I wasn't interested in playing, but at the time, again, a lot of black athletes went away from baseball, and he just felt like he didn't want to go out by himself. So
Right.
he asked me to go out with him, and
Right.
I tried to tell him over and over, I'm done. I don't want to play baseball. He said, well, just go out with me, please. Just go out with me, please. So I finally went out with him. Unfortunately, he got cut, and I
Right.
made the team. And when I made the team, I was still going to walk away because that wasn't my initial goal. Was go make that team. And when I was going to walk away, Leo Davis grabbed me by the arm
Right.
and say, "Lester, come here. I, I really, you're talented. You could have a career in this game. So think about it, and we would like for you to stay with this team." And I did. And history is history.
Yep, yeah. And Coach Davis had a big role in you actually going on to college. Because as we've talked about things, like you were like, well, baseball, high school, it was all well and good, but I think that's it,
Yeah.
But Leo jumped on you again.
Well, he was a great mentor.
Yeah.
Great mentor for me. And it's almost like he saw the future that I possibly could have in the game of baseball. And again, after I finished high school, I was and played American League baseball. I was done again. I just want to, at that time, my thinking was that I want to get out under my parents' budget as quickly as possible. I want to earn my own money and do my own thing. And I knew college was a cost, and I didn't want to cost them anymore. And I wasn't really that interested in school, being very frank with you. so that wasn't one of my top priorities, But he grabbed me and talked to me and says, "Lester, hey, look, I understand that you don't want to go to school, and I get that. But you know what? Someone is willing to pay for you to come to school and play baseball. And it's not going to cost your parents anything and so forth." He said, if you just go, and if you don't like it, you can always come back home. Well, of course, I went, took his advice, and took advantage of it, and went to school, and lo and behold, I in school for 4 years.
What was the biggest difference that you saw between high school as far as ability of players and college? Obviously in college you're there with, I guess freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. What was the biggest difference that you noticed as far as the caliber of players once you got to college?
Well, I think the biggest difference, the biggest acclimate I had to make in college was, number one, being away from home. That was the first step, in living on your own and still having to take care of yourself and play the sport with all these different other people, which on the physical side, you're competing against people all over the United States. I mean, we had people from, far as I can recall, D.C., Virginia, far as east, and then you go to the west. We had some people from Texas, and I don't think we had anyone from California, but Texas, Arkansas, that area there that was recruited to come in. You're competing against the country now, and I think that was the biggest adjustment of realizing, like, yeah, I was the man right here in McMinnville.
Right.
I'm the man, But when you get out there and you start competing with others, they're the man for where they came from, and now it's not only you competing against other colleges, you competing against your teammates as well.
Yeah, so I'm sure that had to be a big transition for you to go to that level. But obviously you did okay, and obviously having good coaches,
Yes.
which I'm sure you had while you were at Kentucky State, made a big difference. You made a statement, I was reading an article about, you made a statement that in college you learned how to go from throwing to pitching. Tell us about the difference between the two.
Well, again, I think that adjustment acclimation period from high school to college was making that adjustment. Here, and as you said, made a statement at the beginning of the show that a guy had a fastball and just blowing it pretty much past you. Well, I could survive off of that here, just fastball alone. Because the talent that I was competing against here in McMinnville wasn't the same level as college. So, but when I got to college, that fastball you talked about got turned around a few times. I'm scratching my head like, wait a minute, this is not supposed to happen. But it's an eye opener. And then when the coach start talking to you about other pitches and how to pitch, now you're listening because, it's not fun out there getting your head knocked off,
Right, right.
But again, they taught me the slider and taught me a changeup and then taught me different procedures in regards to pitching and different approaches of hitters. And then you start putting all that together and then you realize, hey, I'm turning into a pitcher right here, I'm learning the craft of real pitching, So it just went on from there.
So I guess in college, not only were you getting a formal education, you were getting a baseball education too. Sounds like almost like you starting out baseball 101 and moving your way up.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was intimidating, to be honest with you. It was intimidating, but me being the competitor that I am, I was willing to take on that challenge and pretty much master it. I recall one little quick story on a learning process for me. My college coach at Kentucky State, we were doing drills in the gym. At that time, the weather was bad, so we had an infield set up, going over bump plays and pick-off plays and stuff. And I'm on the side just laughing with the guys and talking to them, not paying attention to what he was trying to coach out there. He called me out and said, "Lester, get up here." Got me out on the hill, and he set up a situation I've never been in my life, running to first and third. He had the guy first take off on me. Mickey, I was out there turning around in circles. I was so embarrassed,
Right.
But he got my attention. I understood that, hey, when he's talking, you better be listening
Right.
and understand. It's a sport, it's a game, but it's a process of learning. And when I'm teaching, just like going to classroom, you pay attention.
I don't want to get too technical into the baseball aspect of things, but you talked about a slider. And I remember, growing up, everybody, of course, tried to throw a fastball. You just try to throw the ball straight and hard.
Right.
Few people, had a little bit of a curve. And one rumor I want you to dispel. I always thought lefties had a natural curveball. Is that true?
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's
okay.
not
People
true.
used to tell, well, left-handers, they have a natural curveball. I was like,
No,
really?
no.
Because they just like it was always intimidating to me. But some of them have dabbled a little bit of a curveball. I know one coach we had, and I played for Corner Market, if you remember back in the day. I
Yes.
played for Corner Market, but probably might have been the first black head coach in Babe Ruth baseball, Mr. John
Mr.
Terry.
Terry,
I think
that's
he may
right.
have been
Yep,
that
yes, sir.
first one. But one of our coaches dabbled with a little bit of a knuckleball. And I used to love when he would pitch that knuckleball because it wasn't going very fast and it wasn't moving very much, but he just felt he had a knuckleball.
He had it.
But what is a slider? I hear that all the time as I watch the Braves games. What's a slider?
Well, a slider is what. Let me go back this way. And you're talking about natural movement.
Right.
Well, natural movement for a lefty is usually action telling away from a hitter.
Right.
And I tried that curveball, and I just couldn't throw it. I couldn't throw it. So I went to the slider. Slider is more of a feel of a fastball, but it has a late cutting action. And depending on how you use your finger and how you use your wrist, you can get the down action with it as well. So it's more of a cut, a shorter cut off the fastball that goes, down and in. For a left-hander, it would go down and away from. For a left-handed batter, it would go down and away. For a right-handed hitter, it would go down and in on him. So it's just it looks like a fastball coming at him, but about 3/4 of the way, it start taking that action of cutting down and in to a right-hander and down the way to a slider. So, I consider the fastball is a power pitch, the slider is a power pitch. The curveball is a finesse pitch, and the changeup is a finesse pitch. So they're slower pitches, so that's why I call them finesse. Yeah. But that's the way I look at them: 2 power pitches, 2 finesse pitches.
And you knew you had to go and get a little bit more of a repertoire, obviously, with the slider and the changeup. Yeah.
You know who told me though, right?
What's that?
Them hitters told me.
You didn't have to have a coach tell you that, right?
No.
Yeah. How did you balance in college? You got the academics, you got a lot on you with the game itself and practice and those kind of things. Was that a pretty hard balancing act, or were you able to sort of manage that?
No, it's a challenge. Going to school and trying to play any sport is a challenge because you got to balance it out. You know, you got to find room to study. You got to find room to practice. So there's time. You're tired after you come from practice. You know, to stay focused, to go in. You know, to go in and open up a book and have to do assignment or study for an exam. I mean, it's a challenge. But you try to take that downtime and make the most of it. You know, even if you know something's coming up. And for instance, you might have a short practice or didn't have no practice at all. Instead of just laying around all day, you might want to open up that book. Because, you know, once games and seasons start, it's hard to, you know, get away from, you know, or to get into studying. But it's a lot of commitment, sacrifice, and sometimes you just have to push yourself to succeed on both ends.
Mm-hmm. Being up at Kentucky State, did your family get to come up and see a lot of your games?
Actually, we were lucky enough that we came down here and we played Fitz, and we played Tennessee State.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think of another school over in that Nashville area we might have played. But anyway, they got to see me when I came through here. So I don't recall them ever coming up there except for taking me to school as far as being at Kentucky State.
Now, did your dad play with the Rockets?
My dad did play with the Rockets.
That's what I thought. That DNA is there. Then.
Yes, yes. Actually, and that's where my interest got in the game of baseball. And I'm sure all the other guys that you spoke of, a lot of their dads were involved with the Rockets as well. So yeah, I got to see my dad, a lot of my uncles, and then good friends of people I got to know, Steve Thomas and his dad. He's actually the one that would try to teach me the curveball because he had a great drop for curveball.
Yeah, lefty.
But I just couldn't get it, you know. But I moved on to the slider. But yeah, that's the DNA of the Rockets.
Yeah. And we're going to have an episode talking about the McMinnville Rockets for folks who are the Rockets. They were a local semi-pro black team that was actually a combination of players from out in Viola, Tennessee, who moved to McMinnville and formed the Rockets, and we're going to have a program on the Rockets just by them. They have a very long and illustrious history here in McMinnville. But you must have been pretty good at Kentucky State. I was looking through some of the stats. For 2 years, you led the NAIA in strikeouts. That slider must have been sliding.
Well, like I said, I had a good pitching coach, which was the head coach, who really focused in on me developing my pitches and understanding what pitching is all about. And yes, for 2 years back to back, I led the NAIA in strikeouts, and had a very successful college career. You know, All-American, you know, and all district and all that conference rather. I guess somebody saw some talent out there because it took it to another level.
Yeah. And you probably were gaining that confidence as the years went on too. Obviously, to do something like lead the division in strikeouts, you knew you were doing something right. So I'm sure that excitement about that next level was starting to build.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something, though, before we move on to that.
Yeah.
Because it was about the strikeouts.
Right.
And unfortunately, well, not fortunately, it happened to be a lot of scouts there. And we're playing Central State University out of Ohio this particular day. And I can recall, quick story, the first guy, again, led off with a fastball, and he hit it deep in the park, got a triple out of it, and he's over shaking hooray, because by then I was a known pitcher. You know?
Right.
And he was standing over there, and I just turned around and looked at him like, why are you cheering so much? You're not going to score. Well, it's no outs. First hitter of the game. You're not going to score. Proceeded to strike out the side.
Right.
And went on to strike out 20 out of 21.
Oh, man.
Yes. So all the scouts were sitting up there, and they were just in disbelief, like, it's just unbelievable that this happened, you know. But anyway, that's how my strikeout record went up. But Mickey, to be very honest with you, I played the game at that time because I loved it. I had a passion for it. I wasn't looking into the future in any way possible. Heck, I knew the Braves pretty much. That was it, because we saw them on TBS.
Right.
But me seeing myself play professional baseball, it wasn't a priority for me. I played the game because I loved it and I enjoyed it. And as I continued on, of course, other people were looking at me and thinking that this kid's got a chance to play professional baseball. And the first time I heard of being looked at and scouted and someone was interested in me going to that next level was from my college coach saying, like, Cincinnati Reds highly interested in you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, he said, yeah, they're scouting you, you know. And so that's the first time I got wind of me possibly playing on the next level. But it wasn't a goal of mine in any kind of way or a dream of mine. I just loved the game, was playing it. And it probably was the best thing because I didn't put pressure on myself.
Well, I was going to say, you know, being very humble with your comments there, because I know that can be just the opposite for some kids in college. They want to go to that next level. They're doing whatever they can, and unfortunately sometimes against the rules to get to the next level.
Yes.
So yeah, it sounds like you just were like, hey, I'm enjoying the game, having a good time, and whatever happens, happens. And it probably did take a bit of pressure off of you,
Well,
you know, by having that kind of attitude. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But when you hear about scouts coming to see you and the interest there, did it change your mindset any at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, I enjoy pitching in front of crowds.
Right.
I got motivated doing that, you know. Even when right down here with the Rockets, when I played with the Rockets a couple
Right,
summers, you
right.
know. When the crowd come out there and you hear them yelling, man, you just get pumped, you know. And that's what I was. The bigger the crowd, the more I got it intense and excited, and the more I wanted to be successful.
Right.
So I can recall after I found out the following year, this was my junior year when he told me about the Cincinnati Reds.
Right.
So my senior year, when I go back, the opening day of our home game, I go out to warm up, and I look in the grandstand, and the whole grandstand was just filled with scouts. And at that time, they all wore cowboy hats. So they sitting there in the cowboy hats, and they all sitting up there. And I said, "Who are those?" Those are scouts.
Wow.
So again, I didn't get unnerved about it or anything of that nature because it's nothing to me. You know, I'm just playing the game, enjoying the game, doing whatever I can do the best I can. And but that was the first sign that I realized, like, boy, this is real. This is real. You know.
And I think a good sign for you, the crowds didn't intimidate you, the scouts didn't intimidate you. Not all of us, and I say us, are that way. You know, I probably was almost just the opposite. The crowds, oh man, they just scared me.
Right.
You know, I was talking to one of the players in Babe Ruth, and they were saying, yeah, you know, when the game's on the line, I want them to hit the ball to me.
Right,
and I'm
right.
thinking, no, don't hit the ball to me. Don't hit the ball to me. You know, of course, I was never at your level,
Right.
you know, that kind of thing. But you almost have to have that, I don't want to call it a killer instinct, but you almost have that attitude of the crowds don't unnerve me, the scouts don't unnerve me. I'm me, I know my abilities, and you got to have that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a part of being successful is being able to control your own emotions.
Right, right.
You know, and that kind of came natural for me, and I think it came natural for me as I grew up playing right here in McMinnville, playing with we had some competition here.
Yeah.
Playing against this competition, competing all the time, you know. So to be in that atmosphere and being around them crowds and listening to people call you out and all that stuff, it didn't bother me at all. You know, I don't know at what level I had the ability to block that out and just focus on me and what I got control of, but I was able to do that, you know, and not to allow the situation to control me, but me control the situation. And it worked to my advantage in many, many ways.
And when we had some passionate fans, the majority of them were family.
Yes.
And it was interesting how we would have games during the week playing against each other, and
Yes.
family would be in the stands, and they would be out there, you know, sort of agging you on and things
Right.
like that. And then we'd get on the bus Monday morning, go to school.
Go to
His
school?
Best friend.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, like
Yes.
no hard. I mean, it wasn't anything
Yeah.
bad.
No.
But no hard feelings. It was just part of the game.
This
You knew they were going to try to
Right.
get under your skin
That's right.
during that
That's
game.
right.
But come Monday morning, we were all friends and had a good time. Yeah, really, I remember those days well. And
Fun days.
Yeah, good days.
Yes.
And I really appreciate the stories that you talk about, because I know there's some people probably going to be looking at this episode saying, wow, never thought about those kind of things, about not even wanting to go to college. Never thought about how your mental attitude can play such a big part in how well you do when it comes to sports and things of that nature. And Lester, you've done very well, not only from the sports side of things, but just in talking to you've sort of instilled that kind of attitude to other people. You've come back to McMinnville and talked to the kids over at Warren County High School and things.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that aspect of your life and your career too. There's a lot of people that, as you know, excel at sports, and outside of sports, they really don't have much else going for them. So it's really, really refreshing to talk to you, listen to the stories, but also see the kind of person Lester Strode is. Appreciate you coming on. We're going to stop the first part here. We're going to start the second part with your journey through the major leagues. So I appreciate you coming in for the first part. Look forward to this, doing the second part of the interview. So thank you for joining us today also. Please check Ben Lomond TV Channel 6 for the airing of the second part of our interview with Lester. I'm Mickey Gwynn, and as always, wishing everyone a great rest of your day.